Good afternoon, guys. It's not even afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Guys, sorry I'm so late today, and I'm only able to do one video today and tomorrow. Guys, I've got a day job, I've got commitments, and there's other stuff I have to do. But it's late at night. What time is it? Almost 9 o'clock, guys. Okay, and I'm going to give you an update, and I can guarantee you're not going to hear this anywhere else. I've been speaking to some of my friends in Ukraine, and they're giving me the actual situation on the ground in the Sumy region. I've been speaking to a lot of people today. I've been looking at what's happening with the elections, and guys, this is all falling into place. And I don't want to say this right now, but I'm going to say it. I think we need to see see a few more moves first. But guys, I think all this is to do with Antarctica. I know that's wild. It's totally out there. It's not even on people's radar yet. But guys, bear with me and let me try and explain. So let's have a little recap about what we've been talking about. I mean, a couple of days ago, I said, didn't I? I said Rishi Sunak does not want to be a wartime leader. Literally the next day he announces an election. Guys, I think that was just luck or fate or whatever. But that's the reality of the situation now, guys, all right? Now, I was looking, and me and my friend today, we was talking and we were saying, who do we have as a wartime leader? If we accept now that all these events that we're moving through, if we accept that these are all pre-planned, there's nothing we can do about them, they're just going to happen. Who's our wartime leader? Rishi Sunak? You can look at Rishi Sunak and he doesn't have the moral, no, that's the wrong word to use. He's not a wartime leader, guys, all right? I actually think if you got to know him, he'd be kind of a nice guy, somebody you could, drop your kids off with or whatever. That's just my opinion. When I look at him, I think, yeah, he's a nice guy. That doesn't mean he's a good leader. That doesn't mean he's a bad leader. I'm just saying that, guys, okay? Look at Keir Starmer. Guys, you definitely couldn't drop your kids off with Keir Starmer. He'd probably try and sell them. He gives me used car salesman vibes, and that's the reality. And I do not see him being able to make difficult decisions, to be able to go over and negotiate with Putin, with other world leaders. Because when you get in these, when you go to these meetings, it doesn't matter who you are back home. They probably won't even know Keir Starmer, all right? He's going to have to go to a meeting with people who are criminals, who, by our standards, who are warlords, who probably, do some really bad things, and then Keir Starmer's got to negotiate with them. Absolutely not, guys. Absolutely not in a million years. He will get his pants pulled down, all right? And I'm not saying that negatively. I'm saying that as in the reality. He cannot negotiate with these people. He cannot negotiate with warlords. He cannot negotiate with, people who've been at war for the last 10 years, that all they know is war. He can't do that, all right? He's a labor car salesman at best. So who do we have then, guys, on the political spectrum? Who's there that we can have? And this is really interesting, and it kind of clicked to me today, who and why and how. So cast your minds back now to when David Cameron was brought in from the House of Lords. So he's not Tory, he's not a member of the Tory party. He's not an MP, basically. That's what I'm saying. So he's not Tory and he's not Labour. So he's kind of neutral, although he is, by definition a Tory. But he is neutral now because he's not on either side of the bench. David Cameron was brought in, and everybody was saying, well, that's an odd choice. Now, if you think that all these things, if you can connect all these dots, you think, right, kind of bringing David Cameron in now makes more sense, and it starts to connect more of these dots. Where did David Cameron go on one of his first trips or something? He went straight to Ukraine, and then he went straight to the Falklands. Guys, that really happened. Go check that out. Go look up where his trips were. And he reaffirmed alliances. What actually happened in those meetings, we don't know. But you can imagine that, when he went to Ukraine, he reaffirmed alliances with Zelensky. When he went to the Falklands, he reaffirmed that the Falklands are British. And remember, whoever controls the Falklands controls Antarctica. I've done that to death, guys. I don't need to go into that anymore. I may do I think I'll do a specific video on that, actually, a deeper dive into Antarctica and the Falklands, you know, and the resources down there. But anyway, so that's where it all, you know, where for me, that's where the penny dropped. And I thought, right, okay, so if Labour win, they can keep David Cameron on as Foreign Secretary. And your Foreign Secretary is kind of a guy who's going around there, and he's, you know, and whatever you think about David Cameron, let me put this into perspective, guys, all right? When David Cameron was, I mean, when I want to mention Nigel Farage, because Nigel Farage forced him into the Brexit vote. And when Cameron lost the Brexit vote and he resigned, he cried at the podium when he said, "I love this country." And guys, you know, for me, that's a really big thing. I've not seen anyone cry on a podium. So he's emotionally attached to the UK. Now, you can think about it what you want. Your opinion is your own, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of David Cameron. You know, that's what I think of him. You know, anyway, but sorry, I'm waffling. But David Cameron does have the authority. He has the stature. He has the moral fortitude. Which way you determine, that's up to you. You know, he has the ability. He can go in there and talk to Putin. He can go in there and talk to these warlords, you know, just because of the person he is. Now, this doesn't matter. You know, people think that, oh, yeah, but he's the Prime Minister. He's got the authority. It doesn't matter when you go into these meetings. And again, there's nothing, I don't want to sound like I'm throwing dirt on Rishi Sunak, but he's a little guy. He's a little guy, and when he's going in and talking to these, you know, these big Russians, they'll just laugh at him. Yes, of course, Rishi. Ho, 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 ho. Yes, drink some vodka and go home. You know, that's what they'll say. They'll say stuff like that, guys, all right? But David Cameron, he's got an air about him. He's got a presence, and he controls a room when he goes into it. So that is kind of what the penny dropped to me today. I thought, wow, yeah, David Cameron makes perfect sense. And, you know, I do actually think he's a good choice as a wartime leader for the UK, because you've got to have a strong stomach for this. You know, Britain will be making difficult decisions that ultimately, look at the things that Churchill had to decide. You know, he had to decide, right, do I lose these 50 guys or these 50 guys? Do I lose this battle or this battle? And ultimately, you've got to push through those decisions, and you've just, you know, and it's terrible. But this is what I'm talking about, guys. Things are in motion now that can't be undone, and that's the direction we're heading. So rather than point the finger, we just need to accept I think accept's the wrong word. We just need to be mindful of what's coming, because I can't control it. And you guys can't, and you'll see with, you know, when we vote and Labour win and this war happens anyway, because I don't see any of these politicians at the moment saying they will stop the war in Ukraine. Let me know in the comments, guys, if I'm wrong, if there's Labour or if you know, the Conservatives are, you know, some of their politicians or some of their MPs are saying we're going to stop the war in Kiev or we're going to stop the war in Ukraine, and how do they propose to do that? Because, guys, I'll tell you now, if Zelensky came up and he said, right, guys, we're not fighting anymore, it's a ceasefire, and the Russians said, yeah, there's no fighting here anymore, there would still be, you know, there would still be fighting, there'd still be shelling, there'd still be gunfights for the next 20 years. So I don't know how this is going to stop. Nobody's putting forward a plan for peace. So I can't see it, whether we've got Conservatives or whether we've got Labour in charge. I don't see any plan for peace. So what I thought was really interesting as well today, guys, really, 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 really interesting, was that Nigel Farage has come out and he said he won't stand for reform. He's out there, he said he won't stand for reform. It's a done deal, he's not doing it. I don't think I was shocked, and I'll tell you why I wasn't shocked. But it was a moment for me, because I think, I've actually met Nigel, and he is a good guy. What I thought was, right, Nigel can see the writing on the wall like I can, and he understands what's coming. So I don't see Reform as a party that could I don't see a Reform government being able to lead the country through a war. What I could see them doing is being a pressure group, being able to make the government, whoever is in charge, let them make better decisions. Because be under no illusion, we are in the situation we're in because of both parties. Both parties, guys, not just the Tories. Because if Labour had been putting pressure on the Conservatives, you know, and been scrutinising them properly like they should have, then we would have had a better track record and we would be in a totally different place where it is. Guys, I just remembered I've got my mic upstairs and I'm using this one. I'll have it tomorrow. Yeah, so that's what I think's happening there, guys, all right? I think Nigel Farage can see the writing on the wall and he doesn't want to be involved with reform. I myself have had some dealings with reform and I'm not, they told me I could stand in a certain place. I spent a load of money, guys, on, you know, on materials, promotional materials to promote myself. All my family had got involved. My friends had got involved. I had a huge army. I'd been out. I'd been posting leaflets myself. And then they said, oh, actually, you know what? You're not standing there. They didn't give me a reason why. They didn't refund me any of the money. They just, and I've wrote to them twice. They've not responded. So right now, I don't know if I'd be standing for reform or not. But anyway, you know, if Nigel Farage is seeing that, those problems within the leadership of reform, I don't know, guys. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Are reform a serious party? Can they lead the country into war? Do you believe that we're heading to war, or do you think it's all going to blow over? You know, you guys know what I think. I've been saying this for such a long time, guys, you know. And again, after watching that Andrew Bridgen interview, he said a lot of things on there that I've not been able to say. But now he's brought it out, I can just repeat what he says. You know, the UK will be at war before September. That's what he says. You know, and I kind of agree with that. And look, and which brings me on to what's been happening in Ukraine most recently. So remember what I've said. So I think I did a video about this, about the mainstream media. This the guy on this Sky News, I think it is. You know, he stands there and he's supposed to be an ex-colonel or something, an ex-air vice marshal. Guys, he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. And you know, I'm not dissing him. I'm being factual. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I would love to be able to do, you know, those not comparisons, those reaction videos. I'm trying to find out what software you can use to do the reactions videos. But I'd love to do a reaction video and stop it and say, look, and then point out things and point to him when he's looking at his notes and just how he has not got a clue what he's talking about. But anyway, so I watched this guy on mainstream media and he didn't have a clue what was happening in Ukraine. And I said from day one, as soon as the Russians started this new assault, I said they're trying to take Kharkiv and they're going to encircle it and then just, you know, not leave it alone, but they're just going to encircle it. They're not going to send their troops into there. So to take Kharkiv, you have to take the northern corridor above it. So I said, right, okay, to take Kharkiv, you need to take Sumy. Now, it's been out in the news recently that Sumy, you know, last night there was a drone attack. I'm going to read some articles from the tabs later, but Sumy is going to be next. And from my sources on the ground, that you won't hear this anywhere else, guys. You know, nowhere else on mainstream, nowhere else in the media is going to report this. But my guys on the ground are saying that Russian special forces are probing in and around the area of Sumy, but they're not attacking. And the Ukrainians are really, really worried that the Russians are just getting ready for a big attack on Sumy. Remember, there's reports of 500,000 soldiers just over the other side of the border. I don't know if that's true. They're just what I'm hearing. I've got no access to satellite footage, so I don't know. But that's what I'm being told, guys. All right, there's a huge force just north of Sumy. Now, if the Russians come down and take Sumy, which they may do, because you don't have to put as much manpower into Sumy because it's a lot smaller, then at that point, you can pretty much say that they've got that northern corridor secured, and then they would push south of Kharkiv. Once that starts to happen, guys, you know, President Macron has already said that he's gonna, you know, that they're gonna support Ukraine if asked. So it could literally be this time next week that NATO troops are on the ground in Ukraine. That would be at the earliest, guys. You know, I give you what I think. Whether it happens or not, it might be a couple of days after, it might be a week after, but it's pretty much inevitable now. So in Poland as well, remember when I said that these sabotage attacks were going to increase? It's already started in Europe, and we only know the big things that are coming out in Europe, and we will only ever know the big things that are coming out in Europe, because the smaller things that are like a burst water pipe, for example, a transistor from a power supply from a substation suddenly cracks and falls to the ground. Definitely wasn't shot. You know, these sort of things won't even make the news. But in Poland, there's just been recently been Poland have just arrested 9 saboteurs that were part of a Russian gang. These gangs are called Tatushkas. Remember, we already know that these Russians are operating in Europe. They've been assassinating Ukrainians who are on leave, or not on leave, who are having medical treatment, you know, and are out socializing. So these gangs are already very active in Europe. Because of the free borders, the Russians can move easily between these borders. And remember what we said before. If you're the Russians, the Chinese, the Brits, whoever, Americans, it doesn't matter who. If you want to do an attack on a foreign country, you're not going to send your best spies with, 20 odd years special forces experience, 10 years experience here and all that. You're not going to send those guys, because those are the guys who you need at the back advising. You need those training people up. What you're going to do, you're just going to pay a criminal gang. You're going to pay a criminal gang to do a small act. But if you get enough of these small acts, so take the UK for example. The UK is ridiculously vulnerable to sabotage. Take this water incident that's happening in Devon Water, and I'm not saying that this is an act of sabotage. I think acts of sabotage will come on the on the water infrastructure and on the electricity grid. Imagine this situation in Devon Water now. What if one of our adversaries decided, right, you know what? I'm going to pay criminal gangs in the UK next Wednesday, all of them, I want them to all go and smash up critical water infrastructure. All the water would go off, guys, all right? And that would be a criminal matter, because there'd be no terror links to it. There'd be no links. You pay these guys cash, they go and do the event, and the people who are probably paying them don't even know that it's an act of, international sabotage, because if they did, they probably wouldn't want to get involved. But that's the reality of the situation. Now, we don't have enough water. We don't have enough resources to protect everybody for this. And that's why and then what came out yesterday, the government's advice that everybody should have water, everybody should have food, because they know this is coming, guys. And I've been saying this for such a long time. Guys, if you can remember me saying this in my other videos about these small acts of sabotage, about this soft war, please add it in the comments and let's get a conversation going. So that's what's going to happen, guys, all right? So we've already seen it start in Poland, the saboteurs. Poland have arrested 9 people. This will move over to France. This will come to the UK. These are acts of soft war, And let's not forget that it was out in the mainstream media a couple of all these events seem like it were a lifetime ago. It's probably only like a week or something ago. That 31,000 migrants in the UK have gone missing. Now let's put that into context. 31,000. If you say only 1% of them would be criminal, then what does that give you? Guys, it gives you an army. Even at 1% of 31,000, that gives you an army, a potential criminal army that you can pay. So guys, in the UK this summer, we're going to see attacks on the water. We're going to see arson attacks. We're going to see a lot of soft war happen. And that's going to be doubled up and, what's the word I'm looking for? Complemented by a host of cyber attacks. So guys, we just need to get ready and, and know what's coming and be aware of it. What have I got next? Guys, I'm going to give you some of the tabs that I opened up today. So some of the news from today. What have we got? So in no particular order then. Yeah. Ukraine under threat of new front in Sumy. So remember, I said this when did this come out? 11 minutes past 2 today. So I've already said and identified Sumy is going to be the next region. I've got guys on the ground who are telling me that Russian special forces are probing but not attacking, and they're really worried why the Russians are, they're coming in and they're running off, they're coming in, they're running off. They're just probing, guys. They're marking things for potentially artillery strikes. They're looking what's happening. They're looking where the defenses are. They're looking how far you can get through this field before you get shot at. And they're just doing reconnaissance basically for potentially a big attack that's coming. Remember, if Sumy falls, then the inevitability is that Kharkiv can't defend itself anymore because the Russians can get behind it then. Yeah, we've got more Russia targets. Kharkiv region with deadly missiles. We've got battle rages outside Kharkiv as Ukraine tries to hold back Russian advance. Remember, guys, the Russians are not going to go into Kharkiv city. It's just too big. That it'll take too much manpower. They're going to encircle it. They're going to cut off the utilities. They're going to tell people to behave. If they don't behave, they're going to cut the utilities off. If they still don't behave, they're going to bombard it with artillery from the outside. And the Russians can do this because they can produce a lot more artillery. It's low cost. It's easy to produce, and they're right there on the next door. Our aid that we get to Ukraine, it has to come from America, it has to come from wherever, it has to be trucked in, it has to be shipped in, then it has to cross the border, there's red tape, there's all sorts of stuff where the Russians are just pushing it forwards. I've got a map. What is this? What's this? Right, that's a Telegram channel. Right, this is a new one, guys. So remember, Again, I think I need to do a new video on this. Remember how I said we're going to start to see unconventional naval warfare, asymmetric naval warfare? Well, we're starting to see it now, guys, from an article. I'll put all these links, guys, in the description to the video. So what we're starting to see now, guys, is underwater UAVs from the Houthis. The Houthis are not making these. These are either Iranian, Russian, or Chinese. I don't know, but they're certainly not made by the Houthis. But what you're seeing now is this move to non-conventional naval warfare where, the Houthis don't even have Yemen doesn't even have a navy, and it's managed to thwart the US Navy, the most powerful navy in the world. They've managed to thwart it, stop the shipping basically. And this is what you're going to see as we move forward. We're going to see more of these asymmetric, non-conventional, guerrilla type. In fact, would you call it guerrilla, or would you call it like something in like dolphin type attacks? I don't know. What would be the equivalent of a gorilla in the ocean? But you're basically going to see these attacks at sea. In the West, we have no answer for this, guys. Zero. No answer at all. So we're going to lose a ton of ships. We're going to lose a lot of stuff. And, it's just going to be, it is what it is, guys. We're going to have to learn really quickly, because we're going to be fighting an unseen enemy that can attack us from shipping vessels, that can attack us from under the water with slow-moving drones. They don't have to be these torpedoes that are moving fast. They can take 2, 3, 4, 5 days to get there. It doesn't matter. They're slow and they're undetectable. And that's the thing, guys. That's how warfare's changed. What was I going to say? I had another point there. Oh, yeah. And again, I was talking to someone today, quite high up, and he was talking about this new laser weapon that they've got, and I said, mate, yeah, he's got like, you can imagine the conversation. You've got this guy. He's quite intelligent. He's in the MOD space. He's got a lot of experience, and he's telling me about this laser. I just said, mate, it's a waste of money. Oh, but what do you mean? It can blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah. I said, that was designed for taking out large drones like Predator, like Global Hawk, I can't remember what the Russian equivalent is, Bayraktar. I said, warfare's changed now, okay? I said, right, think about your laser. You've got a laser. Now, the capacity of the laser that they're using, it means that the range is like 2 kilometers or something. Which is fine. It sounds fine, right? You see a drone at 2 kilometers, down you go. And it would work for that if it was one of these slow-moving drones. Now, that's with a drone with a wingspan of like 20, 30 meters. You bring that right down now and you've got a drone with the wingspan of a small car. Okay, you have to point your laser at 2 kilometers perfectly in the same position on that drone while it's moving. Okay, right, that can be done, yeah. Okay, while it's moving left to right. Okay, so you have to hold it there long enough for that laser to burn through the drone. Okay, that's fine, right. What about when the drone's moving left to right, which it will do when it knows it's got a laser on it? How long at 2 kilometers, if the drone's traveling, let's make it easy. Let's say it's traveling, say it's traveling at 60 kilometers an hour. How long does that give you to burn that out of the sky? 2 minutes. All right, fine. So you've got 2 minutes. So when it's moving left to right, this drone, this small cheap drone, maybe 50, 100 grand, and that is cheap when you think about things. You know, when it's moving left to right, the time it takes from your radar or your targeting system to know that that drone's moved and then calculate the new place that your laser needs to be, it's a few seconds, maybe a second, maybe 2 seconds, you know. By that time, it's cooled down, so you need to start again. All this takes time while you're moving in. So how long have you got? You've got like 2 minutes to do that. Okay, that's fine. You burn the first one down. What about if there's 2? What about if there's 10? What about if there's 10 drones all heading towards the laser? You can't do anything about it, guys. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. You're going to have, what you're going to have to resort to is people stood around the ship with rifles shooting them out of the sky. And that's the only way to do it, guys. All right. This laser, it's a waste of money, like so much stuff that we put in, put into the military industrial complex. It's an absolute waste of money. Guys, I've just realized the time. I've been waffling on for so long. Guys, the world is an absolute tinderbox at the moment. If nothing else, make sure you and your family have got enough water. I'll see you guys tomorrow.